Vsauce, a YouTube icon. Maybe the biggest and most well-known educational YouTuber. Maybe. Definitely the strangest. Since 2010, the Vsauce 1 YouTube channel has gained over 20 million subscribers and almost 5 billion views, and it's not hard to see why. Michael Stevens' style of teaching, where he starts with a simple question or concept, and then spends the rest of the video taking the viewer down a rabbit hole of knowledge that ends nowhere near where it started, is so uniquely engaging. But, of course, the Vsauce channel wasn't always what we think of today as the Vsauce channel. In a Vsauce sort of way, you could think of it as a kind of
ship of Theseus paradox.
In fact, Vsauce didn't even start out as an education channel. It started out as a nerdy video game channel. But before we get to that, we should go over what Vsauce was like before it was even born. Or what I like to call the Pre-Sauce era. Wait, that sounds kind of... Some of you hardcore Vsauce veterans probably know this already, but for those who don't, Vsauce wasn't actually Michael Stevens' first YouTube channel. His first YouTube channel was started on October of 2006 and went under the wonderful name Poop Liquor 888. If you're wondering if the 888 means anything, I actually found an old Reddit AMA where Michael basically says it doesn't mean anything. He just needed a different name other than Poop Liquor because that was apparently taken already. The Poop Liquor channel is actually still up. You can go visit it right now. The content there is not educational by any stretch of the imagination, but it is still weird and surreal enough for you to be like, yeah, this seems like something that would come from Michael's brain. Michael actually made a short about this period of time between the last Poop Liquor 888 video and the first Vsauce video not too long ago called Me Before Vsauce. To summarize, a company wanted to work with Michael to make a new show. Michael accepted and collaborated with his friend named Justin Superstar, and together they made a show called
Food Smashers,
which unfortunately for the world never got made. Instead, the company asked Michael to make a YouTube channel called Video Game Nation. Michael agreed, but he didn't like the name, so instead he used a random name generator to come up with a better one and eventually landed on Vsauce. In that same Reddit AMA, he says that he was specifically looking for a name that both had no meaning and sounded good as a .com domain. As he says, he knew it was true love when he saw Vsauce. Unfortunately for Michael though, someone had already taken the Vsauce YouTube channel name. But as he explained in a tweet in 2021 on Vsauce's 11th anniversary, the person who made the original Vsauce YouTube channel never logged into it. Back then, YouTube had a policy that you could claim an unused YouTube channel after a few years of inactivity. In 2010, Michael successfully claimed the channel, and the Vsauce name was his. So, really, the fact that the brand is even called Vsauce, and not Poop Liquor 888, or Vsauce 888 or something else, is really just a matter of luck. And that brings us to the first era of Vsauce. So, even though the Vsauce channel, at the very beginning, wasn't called Video Game Nation, it was still a channel about video games. It was also not solely hosted by Michael. There was a segment hosted by Wacky Gamer, a gaming commentary comedy group, but Michael did contribute his own videos, all of which are peak early 2010s YouTube humor.
and yeah, it's a blow-up. But not that kind, this kind.
It's hard to believe this is the same guy who made videos about counting to infinity and the Banach-Tarski paradox. Also posted around this time was Mario Farts, which apparently is Michael's least favorite video he's ever made. In August of 2010, a personal favorite series of mine debuted, IMG, which is basically just Michael doing a weekly commentary on cool pictures he found on the internet. Another important moment in Vsauce history was October 26th, 2010, when the very first Vsauce Dong video premiered. Also important was the launch of the Mind Blow series, hosted by Kevin, who would eventually go on to host Vsauce 2. Despite all of this content though, Vsauce was mostly not an education channel. Even Mind Blow at the beginning was sort of tangential to IMG, mostly being focused on fun and lighthearted commentary on video game and internet culture. There were a few forays into educational content like Impossible Waterfall and Is Time Travel Possible, and IMG would occasionally have some educational content, but the true transition to edutainment is very clearly recognizable as July 14th, 2011, with the release of the video Hawaii Facts. Hawaii Facts is somewhat of an unimpressive video. I still love it though, as someone who considers Hawaii basically their second home. It's sort of a short vlog of Michael's vacation to Hawaii, interspersed with random facts about the islands, like how the sunken USS Arizona Memorial still leaks oil, or how the mountain Mauna Kea is the tallest mountain on Earth above Everest if measured from its base at the ocean floor. From there was kind of an explosion of educational content on the channel, with videos like Biggest Explosions, Why Is There a Moon, and Stopped Clock Illusion among many, many others. Also running alongside these videos were the 3 series IMG, Loot, and Dong. The videos in the early classic era are mostly very short, being around 3 to 7 minutes long, and usually stick to one topic throughout. What I'm trying to say is, although Michael was making educational content, he hadn't quite found his original style yet, but he was getting there, and these videos definitely do feel like classic Vsauce. The inclusion of Jake Chudnow tracks like Moon Men and Hydrogen go a long way in that regard. An underrated aspect of the videos from this era, in my opinion, is how cheaply produced they feel, and I mean that in a good way. They have extremely bare-bones editing, and Michael is usually talking from random locations, sometimes even filming with what was probably an iPhone camera and mic. This era had more of an ambiguous ending, but in my opinion the shift to the next era was signaled by 2 things: the end of the IMG and Loot series, and the transition to slightly longer videos. Around late 2012 to early 2013, Michael's educational videos, which had become his only form of content at that point, were consistently reaching almost or above 10 minutes in length. They were becoming closer to the longer form Vsauce content that would define his brand, and that brings us to the middle classic era. The middle classic era is what I personally consider to be the golden age of Vsauce. Some of my favorite Vsauce videos ever were posted during this era. What Will We Miss, Our Narrow Slice, and Cruel Bombs, just to name a few. This was definitely the era where Michael got into a real rhythm of content production. He was uploading consistently, and each new video was garnering several million views. Of course, it was also during this era where Michael really perfected the Vsauce style. His videos became less about fun facts, and more about fun facts that somehow lead you to an existential crisis by the end of the video. Michael also did a TED Talk during this era, which was great, you should totally watch it. Anyway, in it he explains the philosophy behind his style of teaching. To quote him, "The point is to bring people in with a great question, make them curious, and then once they're there, accidentally teach them a whole bunch of things about the universe. And also, one of the best ways to gain attentive listeners is not to be who you think your audience wants you to be, but instead to say and make and show things that allow your audience or your students to be who they want to be." The middle classic era is also one of the longest Vsauce eras, stretching from late 2012 all the way through mid-2015. Again, the transition to the next era is a little bit fuzzy, but I think somewhat more clearly recognizable than the last. I personally consider the next era to have begun on July 31st, 2015, with the release of the Banach-Tarski Paradox video. The last middle classic era Vsauce video was Who Owns the Moon? And if you watch that video compared to the Banach-Tarski Paradox video, the difference is honestly striking, at least to me. Not only is the Banach-Tarski video over twice as long, the camera and microphone quality is much better, it's professionally shot and edited, and has very impressive 3D motion graphics. And these 2 videos were posted within the same month. Clearly, there was some point where Michael decided that he wanted to put a lot more effort into a single video, and that quality over quantity kind of mindset is what defines this era, in my opinion. Now, of course, that's not to say the middle classic era Vsauce videos weren't great, but they are objectively lower quality videos. That's all I'm trying to say. Anyway, because Michael was putting a lot more effort into each video, that also meant that his uploading schedule slowed down considerably. During the Middle Classic era, Michael was uploading at least one video per month, but often even two per month. But during the Late Classic era, that slowed down a lot. To put it another way, throughout all of 2014, there were a whole 21 Vsauce uploads. In 2016, there were only 8. Technically 9, but the Brain Candy Live announcement doesn't count. If you were following the channel at this time, you'll know that this transition was pretty jarring to say the least. Don't get me wrong, the new, longer form, high quality content was amazing, but at the same time it felt like we were getting less because we had to wait longer for uploads, even though the actual amount of content was pretty much unchanged. This sort of subjective experience of time made this era of Vsauce feel especially short, even though it was actually short because it lasted, at least in full form, about a year and a half from mid-2015 through to the end of 2016. This is a weird sort of liminal space in the Vsauce timeline where it started to seem like the feel of classic Vsauce was slowly slipping away. Cue the next era. The brand building era is what I would call a sort of interlude era, even though it takes place between the Late Classic era and the one after it. It's the period in time when the Vsauce channel started to branch out and become more than just a one-man show. By this point, Vsauce was starting to become a bona fide brand. It had a filming studio, employees, and all of that contributed to the increased quality that I mentioned before. But there were two more things that sort of happened in the background during 2016, and that was the launch of two different products, the Curiosity Box and Brain Candy Live. The Curiosity Box, which is still an ongoing service, is a subscription box curated by the Vsauce guys, Michael, Kevin, and Jake, and is mainly aimed toward young kids in order to get them interested in and enthusiastic about science. The box is basically a quarterly package of a bunch of science-related toys, books, puzzles, and other stuff like that. To be absolutely clear, I'm not in any way slandering the Curiosity Box as a product. It is not in any way comparable to other YouTuber curated products aimed at kids, which need not be named. It's a perfectly ethical service with a good cause. But it can't be denied that it was a clear sign that Vsauce had transitioned into more of a brand identity rather than just one guy making videos. The other product, Brain Candy Live, was a live science show hosted by Michael and Adam Savage from Mythbusters and Tested. They were supposed to kick off a massive 40-city tour, only in the United States though, but that didn't go exactly as planned. Information on this is a bit hard to find, but from what I can gather, it seems like a massive amount of the tour dates were cancelled all of a sudden with basically no explanation. It does still seem like there were a few shows that actually happened, but nothing approaching the scale of the original plan. Again, no one really knows why this happened. There were rumors that Michael and Adam had some sort of falling out, but that seems unlikely to me. In the videos they made together, they seemed to get along perfectly fine. There's just no evidence that really suggests to me that they would suddenly not want to work with each other anymore, but then again, if that did happen, they definitely wouldn't want the public to know. I think the more likely explanation is that Adam had scheduling conflicts with the show Mythbusters Jr. and something had to give. Just my opinion though. In any case, Michael continued building his brand, undeterred by the setback, and that would culminate in a huge announcement that happened in January 2017, signaling the transition to the next era. So, some context for the Minefield era. In late 2015, YouTube announced the launch of YouTube Red, now called YouTube Premium. YouTube Red was a paid subscription to YouTube that would give you access to some deluxe features like no ads, the ability to download YouTube videos, the ability to listen to YouTube videos in the background on a mobile device, and some other things. Without a doubt, the most controversial part of YouTube Red though was YouTube Originals, which were paid access shows created by famous YouTubers but funded by YouTube themselves. It was basically an effort by YouTube to compete with streaming services like Netflix and Amazon Prime, who were already making their own exclusive shows. The only difference, of course, being YouTube Originals were made by YouTubers who usually posted free content, and as you can imagine, That ruffled some feathers. Keeping on track though, Michael announced his YouTube Red series called Minefield on January 11th, 2017, and the first episode, which was free, premiered just a week later. While YouTube Red itself received tepid, to say the least, reception, people were actually genuinely interested in Minefield. The trailer and first episode looked extremely impressive and showed what Michael was capable of creating when he could pull from YouTube's pocket. As far as I can tell though, Minefield Season 1 was not a smashing success. Even now, after all of the Minefield episodes have been made free for everyone, every Season 1 episode, except for the first, has less than 5 million views as of the recording of this video, some even as low as 2.3 million. Now, those are still great numbers, but this is Vsauce we're talking about. Most of his videos are in the tens of millions of views. I think most Vsauce watchers reacted to Minefield like I did. They were interested by the trailer and first episode, but just not interested enough to consider paying money for it. After all, according to what seemed like 99% of YouTube users at the time, all the YouTube Red series other than Minefield looked completely uninteresting and worryingly corporate. What I'm trying to say is that even those who were interested in Minefield weren't about to pay for the entire YouTube Red subscription just to watch that one show. Unfortunately, those people who didn't pay for the subscription were left with barely any free Vsauce content. In 2017, there were only 5 free Vsauce videos, one of which was Michael just chatting with Adam Savage, and another of which was only 10 minutes long and all about a single math problem. Needless to say, it wasn't good. Again, I remember being around at this time, and it was frustrating to see such a big drop-off in the amount of Vsauce content that was available for everyone. It kind of felt like when you get to high school and your best friend that you had in middle school meets some new people and then all of a sudden barely has time to hang out with you. It felt like Vsauce was for a different audience then, and that wasn't the people who had supported it for so long. If you didn't pay up, you couldn't be in that special club. Minefield Season 1 continued to air for a little under 2 months until the final episode on March 1st, 2017. After that, we were treated with 3 free videos, which was a nice treat, but the joy was quickly stolen away with the announcement of Minefield Season 2, which premiered on December 6th, 2017. If you go down to the comment section of the Minefield Season 2 trailer, you can see the attitude about it wasn't great. While the comments on the Season 1 trailer were at least cautiously optimistic, people were straight dooming in the comments on the Season 2 trailer, saying things like, Vsauce is over, Vsauce will never be free again, etc. And while those people were wrong in the end, you can't really knock them for thinking that way in the moment. Season 2 started in the same year that Season 1 ended. It really seemed like Michael was setting the Vsauce channel up to be more Minefield first and free content a far behind second. And lo and behold, that intuition would prove correct. For a painfully long period that lasted a little over a year, Minefield Season 2 was the only content posted on the Vsauce channel. Not one free video was posted in the entire year of 2018. Minefield Season 2 finally came to an end on January 16th, 2019. And with that, the Minefield era was over. Less than a week before Minefield Season 2 aired its final episode, Michael posted a video on the Ding, formerly Dong channel, called Squaring a Donut. This was a continuation of a series that had been somewhat ongoing on the Ding channel called Michael's Toys, where Michael would explain science and math-related objects. While Michael had been posting infrequently on the Ding channel during the Minefield era, I consider this video in particular the true start of the next era, as it kicked off a strange trend of him posting exclusively on the channel for a short period of time. Many people joked that he lost the password for the Vsauce channel. In any case, it was nice to finally have an abundance of free content in the aftermath of the Minefield era, and I think many Vsauce fans were happy about that. But personally, while the Ding videos are fun, they just didn't feel like a true return to classic Vsauce, at least in my opinion. Remember that one 10-minute long video I mentioned that was posted in the interlude between Minefield Season 1 and 2? Yeah, it was called the Napkin Ring Problem, and seems to have been a kind of precursor to what the Ding content would look like. That is, relatively short with minimal editing, only focusing on one topic, and almost always related to math or physics. Again, if it were anyone else posting these videos, they would be perfectly enjoyable edutainment. but the fact that they came from Michael himself made them feel like they lacked a kind of magic that the classic Vsauce videos had. Maybe it was the fact that they don't give you an existential crisis, maybe it was because they were on a different channel, or they were missing the classic Jake Chudnow tracks, or they were all filmed in the same studio, or something like that. I feel like it was probably a combination of all of those things. The Ding era had a pretty short run, stretching from January 10th, 2019 to April 9th, 2020. But during that time, we did get 18 free videos, which was pretty cool. And with that, we returned to the main Vsauce channel for the next era. On February 17th, 2020, the video "How Many Holes Does a Human Have" was posted to the Vsauce channel and signaled a kind of return to tradition. It started with a simple but interesting question, had that classic Jake Chudnow music, and went all sorts of places that didn't just cover the main topic. Needless to say, it was incredibly refreshing, and felt like the real Vsauce was finally back. Unfortunately, that would be only one of 2 videos in the entire year of 2020, but I wasn't too bothered by that, and I don't think most people were either. It was probably because we either had more or less gotten used to long gaps between videos, or we were just happy to have any classic Vsauce content at all. And it was truly classic Vsauce. Some of my favorite Vsauce videos ever come from this era, like Illusions of Time and The Future of Reasoning. Unfortunately though, the era would be short-lived. As of the making of this video, the last full-length Vsauce video was posted 2 whole years ago, but Michael is still uploading frequently. Not videos, but shorts. And that brings us to the final era. On March 22nd, 2021, Michael posted the first YouTube short to the Vsauce channel. And it was just an ad for the Curiosity Box. But a real short would come just a few days later. And since then, shorts have been just about the only form of content that Michael is posting online. The shorts are fun. They cover all manner of Vsauce-y topics and are definitely interesting, but I still have mixed feelings about them. On one hand, I like them for what they are. They still have classic Jake Chudnow music and classic Vsauce editing, and their short length reminds me a bit of the early classic era videos. But on the other hand, I am still missing more full-length Vsauce content, and I hope Michael returns to making videos sometime in the future, which I'm sure he will at some point. If there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's that we just don't know where Vsauce is going next. As a final note, I hope none of this video came off as slanderous towards Michael or Vsauce as a brand. And if any of it did, I want to make it clear that wasn't my intention at all. While I've expressed my negative opinions about some directions the channel has gone in its lifetime, I also realize it's unreasonable to imagine that Michael, or any other YouTuber for that matter, would be content to just make the same kind of content forever. Hell, since founding Vsauce, Michael has become a husband and a father. Of course, the changes in his personal life would be reflected in his content. No matter what happens though, I'll always be grateful to Vsauce for teaching me so much and for continuing to foster the love of learning on the internet. Thanks so much for watching my first YouTube video, and apologies for the shoddy editing and mic quality. I still have a lot to learn. If you liked the video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave me a like and subscribe so I can grow this channel out. And as always, thanks for watching.